We talked earlier this morning about why several speakers at several different universities, all randomly kind of disassociated with each other, have been booed off the stage. And we're talking prominent tech executives when they start talking about AI, and then the students just booed them off the stage in 3 or 4 different places, if not more. And the answers we got back when I solicited some calls on this was that maybe it was about fear and insecurity, about jobs and about the impact of AI and so on. And there's just no question that these kind of, I'll call them external factors, have a real impact on people and their prospects and their thoughts about their life, and in fact probably also on their relationships. Morgan Copeman is with Shulman Partners LLP and joins us now to talk about how money worries are taking a toll on Canadian relationships. Good morning.
Hi, John. Good morning. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. So, you've said it. I mean, money worries are taking a toll. They would. And they often say that when couples, for example, get into disputes, it's often about either money or sex. And in this case, with all the financial strains and the affordability crisis, is it having an impact?
Of course, it's definitely having an impact. It's having an unfortunate impact, and we see it pretty much every day with our clients. And really what it boils down to is uncertainty. Where am I? Where am I going to be in 6 months, a year? How am I going to retire? What am I going to do with the house that I own? And it creates uncertainty in relationships. Unfortunately, if parties do decide to separate, and if couples decide they can't be together anymore, it creates increased costs during their separation process. So, a really, really important part of considering what all of this means and all this financial uncertainty means is what would it look like if I did separate, and how do I plan for that so that I'm not looking at this increased cost that results from my separation itself.
Yeah, people often don't think about that if a couple separates, because they literally can't even if they're deciding to go their separate ways, they can't stay in the same home. And I would think the minority of cases where that would be possible, somebody has to go and pay rent or go live with their family or something, but probably go pay rent to rent their own place.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the issues that comes up right away when people separate is that issue. Where do I live? Can they continue to stay together in the house? And in that case, how does that work with financials? If they have to separate, who stays in the house? Is that the better circumstance? Is that person going to pay less, or maybe they'll pay more? Does somebody have somewhere else to live, or are they going to have to pay rent? And it's immediate, right? For most couples separating, that's an immediate question that has to be dealt with. And coming up with a plan in advance is really important. And the more that people can work together towards that, the better, and the better that they see the ultimate outcome of their separation.
So to go back one step, where we actually haven't got to the point where people are separating or getting divorced, but rather just to talk about strain, I would think, that, and this is a little bit out of your domain, but it's still in where you end up, which is that I would think that the affordability crisis and financial strains of all kinds that people are facing, especially with lost jobs and so on, are causing strains on relationships that could lead to people getting divorced because they just can't take it anymore, as it were, in terms of the whatever else is going on in the relationship. The money becomes an irresolvable problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been an issue or a main reason that people separate. But yes, it's definitely becoming a more significant problem. And it's creating this strain that causes this increased conflict and anxiety. And it's sort of a cyclical circle. They have the stress of the financial pressure that causes stress in the relationship, that causes further stress and financial pressure. And it's hard for people sometimes to see the light at the end of the tunnel with that.
Well, this is something that I guess I just wanted to make sure we talked to you today, because you're able to speak to it, but also because it's just part of the reality of the times that we're in. And while money's always been an issue, as we talked about earlier on, I'm sure with couples and in relationships, it's I think probably more acute today. Hopefully not any more prevalent than it has to be, because it's just life's stressful enough without all that. But we thank you very much, Morgan Copeman, Shulman Partners, talking about money worries and how those are taking their toll and causing extra strain that makes the money problems even worse, as we pointed out. Thanks very much for your time.